Rule number 1 is don't lose money. Rule number 2 is see rule number 1.
Your first business you started when you were 7?
Yeah, we were a fucking rocket ship. It was like the cash register. It was like the jackpot machine. It just was ringing.
What was your best acquisition and what was your worst?
Amazon is death by 1,000 cuts. We're like, holy shit. What? $500 million? What?
If you had to start Amazon store, like
right now,
what 3 products you would do?
Which is crazy. I'm probably going to get some crazy comments in this.
Welcome to Founder podcast. Today we have Brian Bird, entrepreneur who have built 13 successful businesses, many of them on Inc. 500. Brian, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We're going to be discussing why data beats all the financial decisions and how the operational management, how to integrate the systems on M&A and why the culture so matter. We're going to be getting to the really details of the agency world of the on M&A.
The nitty gritty. Yeah, let's do it. I'm happy to break in.
What was your first acquisition?
Mine, it was a company called ClickAscent.
ClickAscent?
Yeah, so we were, I talked about this yesterday.
Oh, it's like, okay, got it.
Yeah.
It's like you bought it for almost like 100,000?
Yeah, they were doing 92K in EBITDA. I bought them for 92K in EBITDA.
Got 1x.
Yeah, just 1x. Just one.
What was the top line revenue?
They were,
1.2?
I think, no, they weren't. They were lower than what were they at? Like 700 something top line. So they weren't super profitable. It was funny because they came to us. I had never bought a business. We had just started in 2018, but we were a fucking rocket ship. When we came out of the gate, I had a huge community of like 50,000 Amazon sellers. And I didn't realize at the time in 2018 and 2017 and 2016 that you could make money from webinars. I thought it was just to make friends. So I was bored. I was like on my own in a Chicago apartment, 1 bedroom, selling selfie sticks on Amazon. And I was like, I'm doing so well. I'm doing like 300,000 a month right now. I need friends. I like middle of the winter, I had board shorts on. I wasn't wearing a shirt. I had my like heat turned up to like 82. I had my beard grown out here. I hadn't showered in like 3 weeks. I was like, I need some friends. So I'm like, you know what I'll do is I'll start a community. I started a community at the time, 2014. Facebook groups were like a brand new thing. I started this group and started teaching what I was doing, just sharing my results. People loved it. And so they said like, can you do like trainings on this? And I'm like, how do you do that? They're like webinars. I'm like, what's a webinar? Right. And so I started on Skype doing that. And then I eventually moved into webinars. And my first 50 or 60 webinars, it was just me training people for free.
Okay.
So it was all value.
What was it? How big was the community?
We grew at that time. It's hard to say in that was 2016 maybe. But by 2018, by the time I had launched, we were over 50,000 people in the community.
50,000?
50,000
on
yeah.
Amazon.
On all Amazon sellers or wannabe Amazon sellers. We just eventually they started asking me to train them, and I did the webinars. And then they said, hey, listen, you've got to do a course. Like if you do a course, we will buy your course. And I was like, oh shit. Okay, cool. I was like, I'll do a course. Why not? Of course I'll do a course. Right. And so I did that. And we did 2.6 million in our first 6 days of the course being live.
Wow.
And then by the 7th day, I shut down the course. And I'm a creative guy. I love video. I love like graphic design. I love all that stuff. And so I learned how to do what was at the time called a sideways sales letter. So it's a 4-part, like highly produced video series. And the first one is like an introduction, like here's what we're talking about. The second video is all focused around breaking beliefs. So like internal beliefs that, limiting beliefs that people don't think they can get through. Like, I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I don't have the knowledge, all that stuff. And then the third one was kind of the setup for the 4th video, which is the launch video. So by the time I was on the 3rd video, I did a test and I said, hey, listen, let's see how many people are actually going to buy this thing. So I put out an email and I was like, I'll give you $100 off this $2,000 product if you buy now. And I had so many sales. I had never seen my Stripe account. It was like the cash register. It was like the jackpot machine. It just was ringing. I said, this is incredible. And when we launched, I said, I'm only keeping it open for 7 days. And so it was just a mad rush. And we did 2.6 million. We subsequently launched, it was called Sponsor Products Academy. We launched 2 and 3 with my partner. We sold over 10,000 copies of that course since. And it's been really good. And then people eventually just started asking me, they're like, do it for us. Like, we don't want to do this shit. Like, you're really good at Amazon. Go do Amazon for us. And I said, I'm never going to launch an agency. I don't want to do that again. I had an agency in the past. Total nightmare. And I had really big people coming to me, like Discovery Channel and Samsung. And they're like, this is early days, right? And they're like, will you do this for us? I was like, you know what I'll do is I'll ask for the largest amount I can conceive at the time. And so I said, well, all right, here's a number. If they sign that check, I'll launch the agency. And sure enough, they signed the check. So I said, looks like I'm moving from Chicago to Austin with my partner at the time to launch Canopy. And so we did. That's like the whole origin story right there.
So you had 60,000 members in that Facebook group, right?
Yeah, we had roughly like 50,000 at the time.
And how many courses you sold?
Almost 10,000 to date. Yeah, it was called Sponsored Products Academy, and it really became kind of like the cornerstone of like PPC on Amazon. So paid advertising strategies on Amazon. And now basically the whole community still uses a version of what we taught.
Your agency does only Amazon, or you do like TikTok or
Yeah.
like Temu or like other platforms as well?
Yeah, now we do it all.
Yeah.
Right? But at the time, it was just paid advertising. That was it. Then we realized, if you're only doing paid advertising and your product listing on Amazon looks like, a fourth grader photo chopped together your images, you weren't going to make sales with paid advertising. So we eventually kind of grew into like this big creative house where we do the product photography, the videography, all the graphic design, all that fun stuff. Really beautiful product detail pages. And that has become a really good profit center for us too. And that helps on the paid advertising side because, once you're paying for ads, you've got to have a listing that converts. And so that grew there. And then we basically just listen to demand, right? Like, what do your customers want? You ask them and they tell you. I think a lot of founders, and I'm sure you've seen this or done this, but you get out there and you just go, I think this is what my audience wants. So that's what I'm going to give them, and it's an old Henry Ford quote, right? If I asked my customers what they want, they would say a faster horse. And so it's one of those where that's actually, in my opinion, the wrong way to do things. So we asked what they wanted and they came back and they said, hey, listen, we'd love for you to do meta advertising. We'd love for you to do Google. We'd love for you to do DSP, which is another advertising platform on Amazon. We'd love for you to do, et cetera, et cetera. And so we grew from just paid advertising to a full service.
How big is the team now?
Just over 100 people.
100 people? How do you manage?
It's a learning thing. I never thought in my wild, I didn't want to run a team that big, but you learn how to scale. You obsess about org charts. You build systems internally. We started with EOS, which is, the entrepreneurial operating system. That was clunky. And so we kind of pared that down to what we call COS, which is Canopy Operating System. So it's very much a conglomerate of all these different methodologies and ethos and philosophies on how to run a company. And it's been really good. We're really streamlined. We're very buttoned up. We've in that process done a bunch of acquisitions. And because we've got, we're more of an acqui-hire team. It's a roll up, if you will. Having that system allows these teams to really get
How many direct reports do you have?
One.
One?
One.
Nice.
Yeah. It is my COO.
Okay.
By design.
Yeah. How often do you sync up? Like, how do you communicate?
Every day. Every day. Yeah, we have a morning stand up. It's 15 minutes, or every other day. My calendar, thankfully, has become pretty empty. I've got my lovely executive assistant to thank for that, and it gives me time to do these things, which podcasts and speaking engagements and the stuff I'd rather do. To be fair. Yeah.
That's cool. How do you plan your day, if you plan?
If you don't have an executive assistant, you need to get one right away. And I think the right time, I get this question a lot, right? Like, what's the right time to hire an executive assistant? And I'm like, right away. If you're a company of one, that's your first hire. That's always your first hire. It's a great book about this called The Founder and the Force Multiplier.
Yeah.
So if you haven't read that,
I should read that.
It's a great one. But it's all about how to work with your executive assistant to become massive and get so much done. I mean, I get more done before noon now than most people do in a week. And
I saw yesterday you use DISC, right? Before on hires, like on your team you use DISC.
The DISC assessment. Yeah.
DISC assessment, right?
Yeah. First it was bought, I believe. It's been around forever. Tony Robbins bought it, kind of tweaked it, made it a little bit better, more applicable for companies and whatnot. But it bases off of the D, the I, the S, and the C. So D is dominance. How dominant are you?
You're probably dominant, right?
I'm a very high. I have a huge D. All right. I'm like off the chart. Like it can't measure me. And then I is influential. Like, I think people think influence like influencer. That's not what it is. I is more around kind of like, if you're in a situation, can you influence the outcome?
Yeah.
Right. So like great salespeople have really high I's. Typically when we're hiring for a salesperson, it's like a DI, dominant, influential. So I'm off the chart on I and D. Those are my two big strengths. Right. And then S is stabilizing. So it measures for how stabilizing are you. So if you're looking for a really good operator or an executive assistant, you want them to be stabilizing because, entrepreneurs are chaos. Yeah, it's one of those things where you really need somebody strong and stabilizing around you. And then C is calculated, right? Or cautious.
Yeah.
So
it's probably accounting people, right?
Accountants, finance, right? A lot of that. So, again, going back to the executive
quality
assistant,
assurance blog, legal blog probably has to be that.
100%. Anything detail oriented.
Yeah, detail oriented.
Detail oriented. So if you, an executive assistant or a good COO or something like that. Yeah. My favorite is that I find with a high D and a high I, and I find a lot of entrepreneurs and serial killers have a very high D. It's unfortunate. I'll tell you a quick story. When I first was kind of coming up in the business world, I joined a mastermind. And that was Russell Brunson's inner circle. So Russell Brunson wants ClickFunnels, and he's become a really good friend and a great mentor. But the first time he opened the doors, he had only 25 people in this community, a very small, tight-knit community. And we were all learning from Russell. He was like our savior. And Russell. Right? Shout out Russell Brunson. But I met some amazing people in that community. Alex and Layla Hormozy, and we subsequently become really good friends for 10 years now. Brendan and Kaylin Poulin, who launched Lady Boss, and they were doing, $5 million a month at the time. Allison Prince, Dave Lindenbaum, James Friel, a lot of really big names came out of that group. And Russell, as a part of our intake, would give us the DISC assessment. Alex Hormozy and I had identicals. You could overlay the DISC and it was the same. Kaylin Poulin, same thing, right? You could overlay. And then we learned later because Russell's friends with Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins came in and he had the exact same disc too. And so it was funny because we all talked about what works really well in a business setting based off of a disc assessment. And finding DCs. Yeah. So your C is all the way up here, which is calculated, cautious, detail oriented, but a driver as well. It has been a phenomenal fit for me, but that's not for everybody. You've you got to find your counterpart, your counterbalance, and figure out what that is. I mean, I'm not assuming I have the same disc as everyone else, right? But if your audience is entrepreneurs, right, then I think a lot of people are going, yeah, I'm a psycho. I'm absolutely a maniac. I need that,
I started admitting that lately that actually I'm not normal.
Don't you feel like that though? Like when you're first starting out, even as a child, how old were you when you had your first biz?
I was in 2008, like 26, 27. I think.
26, yes, that's young.
Yeah, I moved to US in 2003.
Yeah, so 2020, COVID, that was this massive rush to Amazon from private equity, VC, debt providers. There was a company at the time called Thrasio. It was the first and fastest company ever to get to $1 billion valuation. Faster than Bird, which was the scooters. Groupon got there incredibly quickly. And so they put out a press release. I remember printing it out and taping it to my wall right in the beginning of COVID. They rang the bell and they said, we are the fastest growing company ever to $1 billion valuation in history in the United States. And I think private equity's ears just went, what happened? Right? All the money, all the dry powder on the sidelines was like, okay, this is a very interesting play right now. And so I think within 6 months, there were something crazy like 50 to 100 aggregators. And every week, if not multiple times a week, there's another press release. Oh, we just raised $110 million. We just raised 50. We just raised $200 million. And at the time I was one of the larger agencies and we still are, right? At Canopy. So a lot of the private equity and VC came to me. I didn't really have to go out and say, hey, should we raise money? They were knocking at my door. I mean, I would get 2 or 3 emails a day, right? real emails, not spam. We want to start an aggregator with you, Brian. I said, no. I'm very much, I don't know if this is obsessive. It's an ADHD thing. I'm not sure, right? But you put on the horse blinders and you just go in one direction and you ignore everything else. And that's largely been a part of my success. It's just the ability to hyper focus on things. And so I said, no, just a lot. And then so many, and I saw all these press releases. I said, I don't want to miss this boat. The FOMO was real. And I said, but why do I need to accept money from other people? I can start my own internally. Luckily, was good friends with some of the higher ups at Amazon. So the guy that actually started and built the product detail page for Amazon, I think he was employee number 13, became a friend of mine over time, actually consulted for my team, helped me build my own creative services team inside of Canopy. I reached out to him and I said, hey man, would you be interested in this idea? And he goes, I absolutely would. And I'm going to bring some of my best people from Amazon as well to help you do this. And so immediately I had some of the top execs from Amazon on my team before we even launched. I said, that's cool, but I know nothing about private equity. I know nothing about, I really didn't at the time, right? I know nothing about big money, but I know a guy that does. And so I reached out to a good friend of mine. His name's Tom Shipley.
Okay.
So yeah, he just launched, or he hadn't launched DealCon yet. It's I was speaking at yesterday, right? And I said, Tom, and I met him in the inner circle with Russell. And I said, Tom, would you be at all open to partnering up on this? I need your chops in private equity. He said, absolutely. Let me call a few people. And he was a client of mine at Canopy for his brand at the time. And I said, all right, let's do it. And so he, within a day, had one of the largest private equity firms in the country. They're based out of LA. We pitched him. It was a half an hour pitch. What's your idea? What are you thinking you're going to do? And I kind of laid it out to him back of the napkin style. And he goes, hold on. And this is a Zoom call. And he hits the mute and on video, right? So he's off video. He's muted. He's gone for 15 minutes. We're like, did this guy forget about us? Like, who puts you on hold for 15 minutes on a Zoom call? And this is the principal, by the way. This is one of the co-founders of this private equity firm. He comes back and he goes, okay, guys. So I talked to my partner. There's only two partners. I'm the other one. And we like the idea. How's a $500,000 or $500 million to start? $500,000, yeah. He goes, how's $500 million to start? And I said, hang on one second. So then Tom and I go off of the Zoom call. We both put ourselves on mute. We turn off the cameras and we kind of call each other. We're like, holy shit. What? $500 million? What? Okay. Play it cool, Tom. Play it cool. Let's be good. We come back on. We're like, yeah, that sounds like a good deal. That sounds good. Let's work that out, right? So we're off to the races at that point. 3 months of diligence. They hire Bain Consulting. It's McKinsey and Bain, the two biggest consulting groups. And they hire Bain to do a full market analysis, which is funny because now ChatGPT could do it in like 5 minutes, right? But they do this. It takes them a week. They give us this giant market analysis about the state of Amazon selling and FBA sellers and, how private equity applies to that and the thesis of building an aggregator. By the way, take a guess on how much that one consulting report cost that equity company.
100,000?
$982,000 for that one report that they built.
Oh, $1 million.
Yeah, $1 million. Long story short, they go, we love it. We're ready to invest. So I don't know if you've ever tried to build a bank account that can accept $500 million. It's insane. It's so hard to do. We had to get them involved, and so we finally got all that set up. They've got everyone from the company, 13 of their people, my entire team. I think it was 8 of us at the time. So it's a big Zoom call. I've got a 6-month-old baby behind me. It's 4 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, guys, my kid's dying here. I have to go. I'm thinking it's all good. I'm like, okay, good, right? I click and I go take care of the kid. I'm like, Tom, give me the good news. And he goes, I don't have good news for you. I said, what happened? He said, literally the minute you got off the call, the other partner jumped on from the private equity group and they had an actual battle on the call, like yelling at each other through Zoom. And the principal representing us quit on the Zoom call. Whoa, quit. 17 years at the top of that private equity firm, quit. But we lost that deal like that.
Wow.
And so I wake up in the morning thinking, I'm going to be $500 million richer. We're going to go out and, this is my sail off into the sunset story. And it did not happen that way. It did not at all. So we were
What was the reason? That principal, right? The partner.
Yeah, the two principals, right? One of them was very bullish on natural oil and, moving more that direction. Different market entirely, natural gas and oil and whatnot. And the principal representing us was more, let's move tech. We need to go tech, right? And so they had a fundamental disagreement between which direction they were going to take their firm. And I guess it's just been brewing for a while between them. The last couple of quarters, they had lost 20 to 30% on the natural gas and oil play. And so he just quit. Like that.
But you still end up raising 100 million, right?
We did. So we went back to the drawing board, Tom and I and team.
What was the play? What was the strategy like? What were you were showing to private equity?
Well, luckily we had that report from Bain.
Yeah.
And we didn't go share it with anybody else, but we did know a lot about the state of the industry at that point.
But your play was what? Buy on whatever the multiplier and exit.
Yeah,
on other
so it was buying Amazon FBA businesses and rolling them up into a conglomerate. So it was a big Amazon FBA roll-up conglomerate. And it was a multiple arbitrage play. So you buy low, right, and stack EBITDA on top of them, and then eventually exit for a much larger multiple, just basically through growth. And so we went to another private equity firm out of LA again, and they offered us 50. We said 50 is not enough. And so they're like, we have an idea. We have a competing private equity firm. We'll see if they're interested for the other 50. And so we got these two kind of like mortal enemy private equity firms to co-invest with each other. And so we eventually wound up raising $100 million in real cash, which wound up saving our ass, because when it all came crumbling down, I don't know if you remember this, but the whole aggregator, it's called aggregators, the whole space got wiped out. Everyone went bankrupt. Everyone went just belly up. I mean, within the next 6 months, because it was a bubble. It was one of the biggest bubbles that's been around in business ever. And they all went pop. We survived it.
How much you guys invested? Like,
Tom and I?
No, not from the private equity. You raised.
Oh, how much have we invested thus
Correct,
far?
Yeah, of that money.
17 companies. I can't tell you exactly how much.
Got it. You bought 17 companies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what was the play? What multiplier you were buying them, and what was the exit strategy?
So when we first started getting out there, the multiple, obviously based on EBITDA and profit, right? Your multiple goes up as you have a higher profit. But at the time it was like 2, 3, 4. But some, because there was so much competition from the other aggregators, it ballooned to 10, 12, 14.
Oh, so raised. Got it.
And so everyone that had an Amazon FBA business, like, I have gold right now because they did. And so, you couldn't buy at a 3 or a 2 anymore. Even people doing $100,000 a year in profit were saying, I need $1 million for this. And they were getting it, which is crazy. That's crazy.
What is the multiplier now?
I mean, it's come back down. It's normalized, right?
Yeah,
so you're
2, 3?
Still in the 2, 3, 4. It's back
2,
to
4,
that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're doing really well and you've got great profit margins and high EBITDA, yeah, you can still get a nice penny.
When you bring up the private equities to invest in your structural fund, what is the normal structure? Like, they play 80-20, or they have like they take 80% of the gains?
Yeah, that's very close. 70-30, 80-20. Yeah, it's there. Sometimes it's seller carry. Sometimes, a lot of the time is we'll do rollover equity as well into the larger fund itself, right? So it is a traditional roll up, right? Where you're not just selling, hey, listen, we're going to give you a cash consideration up front, but we also want you to believe in our vision for what we're doing, so your second bite at the apple is even bigger than your first bite, right? And so,
but your play was buying on 3 multiplier and exiting what, 20 or even higher?
Even higher, hopefully. Yeah. That's the goal.
No, what was it in that time?
That was the goal.
That was the goal.
That was the goal. That was the thesis. That was the ethos behind the whole thing, and it still is.
It still is.
I have since moved away from the aggregator. I still am one of the largest equity holders there, but that's a different ball game. I mean, the team now is incredible. I mean, we hired the former CEO of eBay to run the thing, and it's been going extremely well. Thankfully, because what had happened was no good story comes after what had happened was Whenever somebody starts like that, you know it's going to be a shit story after that. So what had happened was a lot of these other aggregators, they would raise 10 million, 5 million from friends and family. Rich Uncle John gave them 5 million bucks. And then these debt providers out there would give you a 10-to-1 on that. So if you raise $10 million, they would give you 100 million in a debt facility. And those debt facilities, I took a look at some of those contracts. They were gnarly. I mean, the clawbacks on them were insane. If you missed a payment, it was basically, hard money loan. And so, when they weren't able to perform because the wall that all of these aggregators hit, even though they were founded by, Harvard MBAs and Wharton and Yale and really, really intelligent financial guys, they didn't understand the game of Amazon. Amazon is death by 1,000 cuts. There's so many details that if you don't get it all right, you lose that game, and it's so competitive. You lose that game. So these guys thought it's just Amazon. No problem. We got this, No, that's not the case. It's very difficult. It's very intricate. And so because they didn't have the chops to run Amazon stores at scale, right? They all hit a wall. Nobody could perform to their budget, to their projections. And everybody started failing all at the same time.
Now you run more agency, right, on Amazon?
I'm back to Canopy now.
And what are you buying now? What kind of companies are you buying?
So we're just about to adopt a Meta and Google advertising agency that we love. We get a lot of demand for that, and they're tremendous. It's a micro acqui-hire. It's 8 people, doing very well though. More than anything though, when we're looking for strategic acquisitions, we're looking for results. We're a performance-based agency. So if we don't perform, we don't profit, right? And so when I'm looking for acquisitions, I'm looking at the results. Well, first of all, strategically, what do they add for our partners, our clients? Like, is this something that will help them grow? That's the first question, right? You oftentimes, as a business owner, you start with what's good for us? That's a wrong way to think about it. You got to go, what's good for your client? What's good for your partner?
Yeah.
And so we heard the demand for Meta advertising and Google advertising. And so we found
what is your buy box?
That's kind of what I'm describing, which is my buy box. You could be a $10 million company or $1 million company. If you're producing shit results at a $10 million company, I don't want you, right? But if you're amazing and you're only an 8-person team, but your results, your ROI, your MER is through the roof, I want you guys. And I want you more than the $10 million company.
Yeah, because you have the clients, you have the partners.
Correct. Yeah. So we can filter in from the top, right? There's no marketing expense. It's just a built-in pipeline.
Yeah. Hey guys, if you want to join Canopy and you have that kind of business, reach out. We're going to leave the contacts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'd love to have you. Yeah.
You have 90 days to acquire Amazon agency.
Sure.
And what do you do day one? How you acquire it? How you going to integrate it?
So you're saying I'm looking for an Amazon agency?
Yeah, and you have to integrate it within 90 days. You have to buy it and integrate it.
Sure. Well,
without losing any client.
So the downside of an acqui-hire or merger is you are going to eventually see some churn. Most likely see some churn in the client base. We like to put a peg out there and say, the retention is going to be around 85%. So that's what we guesstimate, that we're going to keep in terms of the clientele, the revenue, and the EBITDA. If we can beat 85% retention, we're real happy. But all of our LOIs, all of our calculations are done based off of an 85% retention rate.
Got it. And I believe you keep 99.1% retention ratio on your clients. How you do that?
Yeah, so it's all about performance. I had another agency back in the day that we were, based off of spend. A lot of agencies, you take 10, 20% of whatever you're spending on your ads in a way that's very unethical. I didn't feel right about it when I had that agency because all we were doing at that point, what a lot of agencies that are built on that model do is they just want you to spend more money. They just want you to get out and spend more money, not to your own benefit a lot of the time. So
how's your structure now?
Yeah, I flipped it on its head now. Actually, the entire industry has kind of done the same thing after we did it. But we are based on growth. So what we do is, we set a baseline, and then when you grow, we take a percentage of your growth, typically a small percentage to, anywhere from 5 to 10%, just based on the amount of work that needs to go into it. We've got a flat rate retainer. It's very low, shockingly low, actually. But what that does is it hedges against my downside, right? It keeps my lights on. We don't make money on our retainers. We make money when our clients grow. And that's a much more ethical model. And the reason, to your point or to your question, is that the whole team understands that they have to perform.
What is it approximately retainer a month?
I mean, it really varies, right? So our minimum is you've got to be doing $1 million a year, which roughly is $50,000 to $80,000 a month, right? Or just above 83. If you're doing that, we can be very, very successful. But if you're at that,
what is your retainer price?
Yeah,
5,000 a month, like 10?
Yeah, I mean, so the flat fee there would be roughly 3,000 to 5,000.
3,000 to 5,000,
and then 5% to 10% of growth on that.
And that is on the EBITDA of their EBITDA or gross revenue?
Gross revenue.
Gross revenue.
So growth on revenue.
Got it. They have to just build in on their costs that 5 to 10%.
Right.
Got
exactly. Yeah, but what we do internally, and a lot of agencies don't do, I don't want this to become like an ad for Canopy, but like what we do that, and this is the truth, like what a lot of agencies don't do is we actually provide the reports. So I've got an entire analytics team that provides really professionalized, accurate reports on profit, right? So it's not just like, hey, you grew from $100,000 to $200,000, yay. It's like, no, here's where your profit is. We want you to see that we're doing the right thing. So internally, we're not just focused on growing top line. More than that, we're focused on streamlining and reducing costs, right? Through better advertising strategies, higher conversion rates on their product detail pages, right? That's what we focus on. And we want to show our clients the profit growth because it's not what you make, it's what you keep, right?
Average, what percentage year-over-year growth they have, approximately clients?
83. We've got that number.
83%.
Yeah, that's
a year.
We track it every month. And last month was 83% year over year.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's massive.
It's massive.
Now you have to take into account, so there's, a theory of wind resistance, right? So if you're doing $30-50 million a year on Amazon, growing 83% year over year is a much harder lift, right? But if you're doing $1 million a year, to get you to $5 million the next year, for us is not that difficult. We've done it repeatedly. I've seen that movie 1,000 times. Right.
What kind of gross profit and EBITDA they run?
Well, it varies. On Amazon, it varies per category.
What percentage Amazon takes?
Roughly 30% though.
30%?
Yeah.
And plus ad spend, right?
That is not including ad spend.
That's not including ad spend. So like what percentage on ad spend they have approximately?
I mean, what you want is 70 to 80% of your sales to come from your organic side. Right.
Got it.
Searching organic. On the other side, the 30 to 20% should be from your paid advertising.
Got it. Not all pure 100% on paid, like they have the organics.
Paid is a tool to increase your organic ranking.
Yeah.
So when you do paid advertising the right way, one, it should be profitable. First and foremost, rule number 1 is don't lose money. Rule number 2 is see rule number 1.
How do you motivate your team?
I mean, it's again comes back to the model, right? So everything's gamified, everything's incentivized, right? Because we bill on growth, we pay on growth, right? So everything is streamlined and gamified. I mean, we gamify everything. I mean, you know me, I like to have fun. I think the journey is the fun part, right? Like if I sold for $200 million today, I'd be like, what do I do next? Like I'm not sailing off to the Caribbean. I mean, well.
And I believe you 50% of your time you spend there, right?
I was just going to say, yeah, I spend half the time in the Virgin Islands anyway.
Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
Next podcast we should there.
Let's do it on a boat, brother. Let's get on the catamaran and shoot a pod on the cat. Yeah.
How do you scale on acquisition while keeping the same culture? Like I think on acquiring, the culture is one of the main things. You're buying people's heart, right? Like
yeah, you're buying their business, their dreams.
Yeah, dreams. Yeah.
I mean, that's part of what I love about acquiring is you're making someone's dream either come true or even better and bigger. That's a fun moment, and it's a privilege to be able to do that, to be in a position to do that. And that's why every acquisition we do or acqui-hire or merger, it's we treat it very, very gently. I realize that I love entrepreneurs and I want to, I know the struggles intimately. I want to treat them very well. And one of the things we look for is good people. Harvard Business Review did a study, and do you know what the number one reason acquisitions fail is?
No, what? Culture?
The C-suite. the
So,
culture. Yeah. So you're really, if it's a merger, if it's an acquire, if it's a full-on buyout, it's really the C-suite and the leaders that determine the culture. And so when we're going in to acquire, I'm less focused on the financials. Of course we are, but I'm more focused on the humans.
Yeah.
Right. And the tech, but the humans really are the ones that create the culture. And so it has to be a culture fit. If it's not a culture fit and you plan to merge or acquihire, you can take down the whole ship. One hole in your boat can sink your ship. So, we're very careful and cautious about that. I think the DISC assessment, we talked about that, right? Like we give that to everybody. We want to know who they are, intrapersonally, but also on paper. Who are you? Right? Like what's your DISC? Yeah. It's systematized. We've kind of built an equation on how to figure out culture. We also like to date before we get married. So oftentimes if we're going to acquihire somebody, we will use their services with the acquihire in mind and see if they produce results without letting them know we're actually looking to acquire them. Right? So, if I hire your agency to do something for me, just know you might get bought.
Definitely. And how many of the acquihires, or like when you bought a company, what percentage of the C-suite or the founders stay and what percentage don't stay?
Yeah. So if it's an acquihire, we give them the, quote unquote, golden handcuffs, right? So we want them to stay. We encourage them to stay, but we make sure that's in alignment with what they want. That's a part of the conversation. We don't produce an LOI until I get to a point where I'm like, okay, they really believe in what we're doing. They see my vision and they want to be a part of this team. If they don't see it, if they don't believe in it more, it's just the LOI never shows up.
You normally buy 100% or you buy like 80%, 20% that you like roll in?
I buy 100%, but what I like to do is, so for example, if we were to buy a team right now, let's say an email marketing team, which we are looking for currently, right? That would become what we call a pod inside of our org chart. It'd be our email marketing pod. And we individualize the financials per pod, whether it's, we've got, lots of Amazon pods.
Yeah.
Right. And so we per pod.
So you have a separate P&Ls.
They're all separate P&Ls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that's actually back to your question on how we keep people incentivized and they're paid off of their profit per pod.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mouthful, but yes. And so if we bought that email company, we would individualize their financials,
correct,
their P&Ls,
yeah,
and pay them off of that. And what I like to do when we acquire is to give them a percentage of the profit in their pod, just like we do with any other pod. Typically, though, if we're acquiring, that's a higher percentage.
Yeah.
And we leave them with, I call it a profit to equity parallel. So if we leave them with 10% of their company, they get 10% margin. But it's never of their company. That company gets dissolved immediately and then absorbed into the new pod. And so they'll have 10% of their pod. And then in a larger exit, let's say the roll-up exits, it's just an equation. How much, of your EBITDA is related to our ultimate exit at what multiple? And then that gets paid down through the line.
Wow, it's really interesting because I have around like 20 different pods as well.
Yeah.
Projects.
It's a lot of pods, brother.
And each one has the same way incentivized.
Yeah.
First, in the beginning of Venture Studio, I can incentivize them on the top line growth. Later, it goes to gross profit. Then it goes to EBITDA. Once they get to like bigger size, like now they manage the EBITDA and they have access to bank accounts and they have a whole clip P&L accessibility for their own pods.
Interesting. You're actually giving them access.
I'm giving them access
to the bank
to the bank account.
And is it a bank account per pod?
Per pod.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
Yes,
blowing my mind.
Per pod, yes.
Yeah.
And they have a access in the beginning. They have a full access. They can transfer, send money to anywhere except themselves. They cannot pay themselves.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Their salary get approved by their manager and accounting will send the money to their pay. But they can pay everybody else. They
Whatever
can pay
they want.
Vendors, yes. They have a full control.
So it's actually a company inside of a company.
Correct, yes.
That is so interesting.
Yes.
I love that.
Later, once the revenue goes too high, like let's say million plus, they'll have a double protection on accounting. Like they can submit, someone else has to approve that. So they can.
How do you then train your pod? What is it? Do you call them pod leaders or?
Yeah, project managers.
Project manager.
Project managers, then they become business unit managers and eventually CEOs and my managing partners.
Hang on, I'm taking notes over here, man. That is brilliant. I love that. I think that's Canopy 3.0 for us, maybe. Yeah, that's great. We don't take it that far. I guess the question for
And
me,
we use AirWallex bank. You can actually create like sub accounts.
oh,
Like
interesting.
within a few minutes, you can like actually print a new bank account.
No kidding.
Yes.
What's the name of it?
AirWallex.
Okay.
AirWallex, and you can actually print digital virtual cards. So for each vendor, we have a separate virtual cards. Like if you would use like Canopy, we would basically print a new virtual card and we would give it to you. If whatever, we also know like who has that virtual card, and if something happens, we know that access was given only to that vendor.
That is granular on the most granular level I've ever heard. I love that. Yeah, I mean, I thought we were very granular, but that's brilliant. I'm telling you, I'm taking notes over here.
Yeah, I would really recommend. And we also use the Time Doctor, as I said.
Yeah, Time Doctor.
Time Doctor, yeah.
Brilliant. Let me ask you a question. Did you have Time Doctor from the beginning, or did you have to install that?
We installed it after COVID.
Okay.
After COVID, like I was fighting a lot. I was showing up to office as a leader to shows up, and I was asking everyone to like work from office. Everyone was against, and I lost a lot of my leadership team, some of my leadership team, because I was pushing them work from office. But now I push them away. So it's like no one works from office. Yeah. Everybody's out virtual. Everybody works from home. The first reason was when the crisis, when the Ukraine war started, like I lost 50 people there. Like we had to like move them out of Ukraine.
We did the same thing.
They started working. And then tsunami happened in the Philippines.
That's
office.
right.
We had an office in the Philippines. Then I lost them. Like they couldn't stay in the office. And then we adapt to the virtual office structure. And actually, we believe it or not, I like the virtual structure more because organization structure, they follow the command lines on virtual structure more than the tribes in local places.
Yeah.
If you have a local offices, they will break the organizational structure. They will go to their own tribes.
Right.
They will don't follow the organization structure.
Sure.
But when you have a pure virtual office, they kind of follow the structure.
The dividing lines are stronger.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. You don't have water cooler talks and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when you went virtual, like a lot of companies, right, in 2020, it was just an immediate Time Doctor issue. You just went, boom, we're doing this. This is something we're going through actually right now, right? So we've had Clockify, which is a different system. I don't like it as much as Time Doctor. But when you're running a virtual company, the downside is people are working in their pajamas, and you can't avoid that.
But they must be on the video cameras always.
Right. Yeah, we've kind of got the same thing. But the work from home business on the top, pajamas on the bottom, right? Or no pants at all, right? We've had situations I could tell you about that are pretty funny. But long story short, installing Time Doctor, we're getting a lot of pushback on that. It's because it goes on the computer. Ooh, right? It gets installed on their computer. Do you provide your entire team with their laptops?
No,
right,
we don't provide. Yeah, we don't provide them.
Yeah, and so we're getting pushback on that, but it's been good so far.
No, we only allow some team members not if they overproduce the results. They get that like A player plus if you achieve your results better than
Interesting.
the plan.
Yeah.
You have the freedom of work, whatever.
Sure.
Or not.
And is that based on KPIs?
KPIs, yeah. OKRs and KPIs.
OKRs and KPIs.
But if you see it's not working, right away they go back to Time Doctor, and we have a weekly planning. Like it's granular. Like they have to follow every day. They have to write down what they did, the VFPs, valued final products of each meeting. They have to report a lot. If they start missing deadlines or KPIs, OKRs, we put a really strict rules. Okay. If they achieve, they are free.
Gotcha. That's an interesting. So when, let's say it's an A player and they achieve their mark, their KPIs, they don't have to use Time Doctor anymore.
Correct. They can get.
Do you see decline in KPIs ever?
Right away, they go back. If you see that,
they go back on it.
Correct.
That's an interesting move.
Because by the default rule, they have to have it.
Sure.
If you are giving them closing your eyes, we can always bring them back. And one more thing we have, when people want to go to vacation, the first thing they have to do, they have to write all of the SOPs and they have to delegate it to the next person. They're not going to vacation without doing that.
I'm loving this. Can we hug? Okay, yeah. These are great. They're great. Okay. It's rare I come on the podcast and I'm getting so much good information. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm literally like, okay, you're solving my problems. I'm literally facing these problems right now,
And they have also a 4X rule. In order to take 1 day off, you have to let us know, your manager, 4 days before. If you are taking like 5 days, you have to let them know 20 days before.
Yeah.
And
do you do unlimited paid time off?
No, they have only 2 weeks a year.
Okay, yeah, we have
like
unlimited
5 and 5, but they can only take first week on their whatever they want, but the second week they can take it whenever the company or the manager wants.
Okay.
So it's a balance.
Interesting. Yeah, we moved to unlimited paid time off. The reason being, we had people not taking any time off, and that had accrued, and all their PTO would stack and stack and stack, and it stacked for years sometimes where people wouldn't. And they did that, and then it built this nest egg for some of the team, like rollover minutes, right?
But we pay them off at the end of the year. If they don't take their vacation,
you pay them off.
We pay them off.
Yeah, we did. We made that mistake. We did not. And so we had people that, they were not necessarily unhappy at the company, but because they saw this, well, no, I think they saw the paid time off nest egg growing, and maybe they had a little burnout, maybe they get a little unhappy, but in a normal situation, they would just push through, right? But when you've got a nest egg of, I think at one point we paid somebody out like $40,000, right? And that's a lot of money, right? And so when you're working and you're making $80,000 a year, and you see half of your salary is in your nest egg, and you get a little unhappy in your position, you go, you know what? Fuck it. I'm quitting, and I'm going to take this and go to the Virgin Islands, right? Or something, right? And so we found that was happening. And so we moved to unlimited paid time off. And what we realized, people take less time off. They're more apt to push through burnout or unhappiness, which is always, I find, just a minute in time. People do burn out.
When is unlimited? Like, can someone take 2 months off?
In theory, they can take 2 months off. However, we measure by KPIs, just like you.
Yeah, of course. Actually, if they're connected to P&L of that pod,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
What is their motivation?
Yeah, I mean, there's social pressure, right, from your pod, from your larger team. We call it the tribe. Canopy is a tribe. Everything we do is like Amazon related. All my pods have names of Amazonian jungle cats, or like, lizards or spiders or frogs. But the tribe creates a lot of social pressure, a lot of peer pressure to perform. And so we find people take a lot less time off. Then again, it kind of comes back to this unified, incentivized, gamified culture. People want to be there. We have a lot of fun. We bring in guest speakers on our huddles. We have on Mondays, we have a half an hour huddle, and we'll bring in guest speakers. James Friel just spoke for us. Everyone's like, you got to bring in Hormozy. And I'm like, he's not going to come on our huddle. But I asked him anyway, so he might. It's one of these things where if you gamify and you create incentivizations and peer pressure, I feel like unlimited paid time off is a really great benefit. And people see that when they're applying, and they go, that's amazing. I'm going to take 2 months off. It's like, you could, in theory, but you won't when you're in Canopy, because you won't want to. You won't want to.
And their motivation structure is like monthly, quarterly, yearly, or like LTI, like long term, like do they have like phantom or like exit?
Yeah. So we do provide equity, to really key players. You don't even have to be in the C-suite. If you make it to the C-suite, you obviously get equity. So we've got a number of players in the C-suite that have equity. But we've had pod leaders that have been with us, or project managers, you would call them, been with us since the beginning, and they all have equity too, right? And they're somewhere in the middle of the org chart, right? So we're not a hierarchy, right? We're a performance-based team, and we get paid on performance. And so if you perform amazingly well, you can have equity. We have a guy, Benji, that's been with us for day one, and he's still an account specialist. He doesn't want to go any higher, right? He's just an account specialist. He's real happy with it, right? He's got equity. So, that's like giving one of the lower org chart players, a little love. And I think that gives a lot to the culture too when people go there.
I used to think like when someone will ask equity, I would feel threatened, like why are you asking? But now actually it's a good thing because it means someone wants to be with you for long term.
Right.
It's actually
Right.
like positive.
Yeah, and I've also found, we've had a lot of offers on Canopy, and when the ones that we've walked down the line, the most recent one was just shy of 200 million, right? And the one that one got furthest down the line, and I told that story on stage yesterday, right? But they loved when we were giving equity. These private equity guys, they love to see that your team is committed, involved, because flight risk is real. When you're buying a company, the biggest risk is the team just evacuating and getting out, right?
What percentage of the company normally allocate for the equity of employees?
I don't. I really don't. I don't have a pool where it's, hey, here's the equity. It's really just earn it, pay per performance, right? All the way through. It's an ethos through the whole company, right? So, if you really become an A player and you shine in your position, you get equity. And I've told everyone publicly, and I say it a lot actually on our all hands huddles, in the in-person leadership meetings. I say, I want everyone on this huddle or in this room to have equity in my company.
Attach it to the base pay or like you
Bonus.
give a bonus?
Yeah, it's bonus. So it's paid out on bonus.
Based on bonus. And you connect it to valuation?
And profit share though. If you've got equity, it's profit share and bonus.
And who manage that cap table or structure? Yourself or your assistant or who has?
I've got a finance team.
Yeah,
that does that internally. Yeah.
And how often do you manage that? Yearly?
Yearly. Yeah, annually. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's an annual. I've heard you could do it quarterly, but that is...
Yeah, it's too much management, too much heavy lifting.
It's cumbersome, it's clunky, and it's, oftentimes in business, I find that a lot of the business owners I talk to or coach or even myself, you're optimizing for the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You're putting a 10x effort into a 2x problem, right? Where you should be putting, a 2x effort into a 2x problem, right? Or, the other way around, right? You've got to optimize for the right things.
Correct. Instead of like a local KPI, it's better to focus on global one.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
But if, as does with business or life, a huge problem comes in, that's okay. Think of it like a Gantt chart. It just pushes this project and this initiative that way a little bit, right? So you've got to have enough flexibility in your operating system to be able to put out the level 10 problem with a level 10 effort, right? And if you don't, then you can only put a level 2 effort into a level 10 problem, and you don't have the flexibility that level 10 problem can sink that entire business. So you've got to have that flexibility.
What roles do you have on the C-suite?
Got a CPO, Chief Partnership Officer. She's tremendous. She runs our entire partner success team. So that's a team of 14 people. Each one of them handle, I think, 25 clients. That's been a great addition. Very expensive, but huge ROI on having point guards that communicate really well with your clients. A huge EQ, right? Very high S's, very stabilizing. Our tenure has gone through the roof. So the amount of time that a partner stays with Canopy went from about 13 months to now we're at close to 30 months.
How many partners do you have?
Close to 300.
Yeah,
that's been great. So she manages that team and she manages the business development team. Iram is tremendous. So many people try to steal her from us. She ain't going anywhere. She's an equity holder. We made sure of that.
Yeah, I just learned from you. So I'm opening a new position now because we have contractors, technician contractors. They are partners. So I don't have really anyone like attached to them on that relationship base. So like we have over a few hundred also like partners, technician contractors, like who brings the money. Like we serve our homeowners through our contractors, right? Through our technician network. So we don't have actually that CPO, you just said, like partner relationship manager.
Yeah, or just, a director of business development or something like that. You might not even have to go all the way to the C-suite with that. You just get a really hungry, one or two really hungry salespeople that are great at. So for us, there's two separate sales positions. There's the AE, and that's more transactional. right? Like, hey, you've applied to become a Canopy client, right? Let's get you closed. Let's get you on board. Let's get you started. And that's the life cycle, and that's like 31 days roughly. And that's a different skill set. That's your high D, high I. But in the business development world where you're looking for strategic partnerships, that person needs to have a huge relationship building capability, like a characteristic among them. It's different on the disc, right? So you want them to be relationship builders because that's a long-term sale. Some of our strategic partners have sent us over 50 clients, right? And because they're getting a kickback, we used to give them 10% of the top line that we would bill every month. Nobody really cared about that. It's kind of like when you win the lottery, like it's some unusually huge number of people take the lump sum compared to like the monthly payout. It's like 98% take the lump sum. We just said, hey, listen, we'll give you $1,000 every time you refer over a client. Whereas that's a smaller number than the 10% for life. Everyone started referring business. They were like, oh, left and right. So we give, and then we moved that to our sales team too. Hey, you make a much bigger nut off of the first sell, like the first 3 months, and then it goes down to almost nothing.
So you have a COO, you have a CPO,
COO, fractional CFO,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. And the C-suite right now.
That's the C-suite. Got it.
Yeah, CTO is my next move, or what we're really actually calling a CAIO, so Chief AI Officer.
Yeah, AIOps.
Right, rather than a CTO. So that's our next move. We've got a couple of internal candidates for that. We promote from within all the time. Like we've tried to hire externally, and it's been, I mean, I told that story again yesterday on stage, right? I don't know if you saw that, but we hired a CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, for $600,000 a year. Shit the bed. Within 3 months, nothing had happened. We had declined. So every time we hire externally, it's been a fail. So I love promoting internally.
Right?
Yeah.
Good. How AI is affecting your industry?
I mean, it's affecting every industry tremendously, right? A large number of searches now on Amazon are starting with Rufus, which is their internal AI. And so we've had to refocus our own strategies on how to serve our clients, our partners, based on that. But internally too, we're building tools, and we're about to have one completely rolled out that'll take our margins from roughly 30%, hopefully back up to where we were when we were first starting, right? 45, 50, 52%, because it's going to optimize the number of partners that can be served by pod, right? So we call it PPP, which is partners per pod. And that's a real measurement, right? And so when we can have more partners per pod based on better technology and less humans, right? Then, it's what we call vertically liquid. We can grow at any scale and our margins will improve drastically. So we're getting very close to that.
How other platforms work, and what percentage of the sale comes from different platforms like TikTok, Temu, AliExpress, Walmart, eBay, I guess? Like what else?
Yeah, I mean, it varies in region to region, right? So in the States, Temu's a nothing, AliExpress is a nothing. With the big ones here, obviously, are Amazon, and Walmart has grown tremendously as well. TikTok took off like a rocket, right? But now there's been a lot of wobbling happening over at TikTok.
TikTok probably for the smaller items, right?
Yeah, it's really great for the less expensive items. But what we use TikTok for is top of funnel, right? Awareness. It's an awareness campaign. So we've represented a brand named Goli. They're the supplement brand, the apple cider gummy vinegar or vinegar gummies, and they are $1 billion+ annual revenue company. We've represented them for 7 years now on Amazon. Tremendous, one of the top 10 selling products on Amazon. They've got more searches on Amazon for apple cider gummies than apple cider has searches. That's how big they are. They went to TikTok and they ran this massive campaign on TikTok. The affiliate campaign was beautiful. We didn't manage it for them. This is before we did TikTok. And they were giving away condos in Miami, BMWs, Rolex, for their top affiliates. And it made so much noise on TikTok that they shot out of the gate. And I think they were doing like 12 or 18 million a year. Wild. Or a month, I should say. But what was really interesting was watching what we call the halo effect. Back on Amazon, we saw their revenue, and I can't give you real numbers on this, obviously, but their revenue shot through the roof. And that's where the profit center was back on Amazon. not necessarily on TikTok. So that's a strategy that we've seen, we've learned that works very, very well, especially when launching a product. If you have a new product and you're trying to get it out there, TikTok is a great platform. It's a really good one to get found, observed, not necessarily for buying through the TikTok platform. And not a lot of people, what happens? You see a product on TikTok. What's the first thing you do? You go to Amazon. You go, hey, is this on Amazon?
Yeah.
Right. So that's very usual. Like the bounce rate from TikTok to Amazon is enormous for products, for physical products, right?
Yeah, because I guess people feel more comfortable and more secured on Amazon.
Right. And the returns, I mean, the delivery is guaranteed. It'll be here in Austin, which is beautiful compared to the Virgin Islands, it takes 3 weeks. Right. But here I push a button and I'll have it by 5 p.m. That's
same day.
Think about how wild, we all take it for granted, but that's so wild.
Yeah.
You push a button, you get food. You push a button, you get a product. Like I don't have toothpaste. It'll be here in an hour. I think that's tremendous, and people have learned to rely on Amazon for that here in the States, and so when they're on TikTok, they go right to Amazon.
If you are new to Amazon, how much money you need to get into Amazon? Sell it.
Yeah, it depends on. You're asking me to build a watch. We recommend if you're launching a brand on Amazon, don't just launch on Amazon, right? Launch on TikTok, launch on Meta ads, launch on your own D2C, leverage email lists. Hopefully you have your own. If you don't have your own email lists, you can rent email lists, right? You can do e-zines and all kinds of fun things.
If you had to start Amazon store, like
right now,
what 3 products you would do?
First of all, I'd start with at least 50 grand for the launch. It's the more money you can put into the launch, the better. Amazon has a what we call the honeymoon period. The first 30 to 90 days on Amazon, they are artificially inflating your rankings, giving you more traffic than they should to see if you're a viable product that will make them more money, right? So that's the first thing I would do. I'd start with 50 to 100K. You could make it happen with 25 and some creativity. I would say, the products I like most are the boring ones on Amazon. There's another one, tie downs for a truck bed, right? These are like automatic grips for your truck bed. They're doing incredibly well. Gun holster, right? You wouldn't, these are all things that are not like cool and flashy and, oh my gosh, look at this air fryer. Look at this fidget spinner. Like they're like very basic. You wouldn't think about parts. Another one we have is, like the table, stop, like, what is it called? Furniture gliders. So if you want to move your furniture, you put these gliders underneath you and you push the furniture around. They're doing really well. So, for me, it's boring products that are great, but I also love to have subscribe and save products, right? So products that you need over and over and over, yeah. So you get that recurring revenue. Yeah.
Interesting. Brian, it has been incredible. For the founder to founder listeners, if they want to find you, they want to reach out to you or the Canopy, how they should contact you.
If you're an Amazon seller or you're an e-commerce seller and you need some help there, go to canopymanagement.com. If you want to chat with me, I love talking to almost everybody that wants to talk to me. You can find me at Brian Burt. It's BrianBurt.com. I'd love to have a chat with you. If you're looking to sell on Amazon, if you're looking to sell more on Amazon, or if you just want to talk to me, please reach out.
By the way, Brian, for the listeners and whoever is watching this on YouTube video, whoever is going to be commenting and liking and subscribing, normally the guest gives a gift. What gift would you like? It can be like your consultation or maybe Zoom call with you for 15 minutes.
Yeah, like I said, I'm happy to jump on. Shoot us an email and we'll get a call going together. I'm happy to consult with anybody that's selling physical products. If you want to sell more of that, if you're interested in M&A, if you have an agency and you want to grow that agency, let's jump on. I'm happy to deliver value. It is my ethos. It's my philosophy to give results in advance. And hopefully that builds relationships. And it always has in my career, led to much bigger and better things. So submit an application and let's jump on. I'd love to talk to you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone. Today, this episode was about Brian Burt, about the Canopy management. We discussed about how to build and scale and do mergers and acquisitions, M&A on the Amazon agency world. And if you liked it, please subscribe, and like and share with your friends. Thank you.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you,
Brent.
Brent.
It's been great, man. I appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate it.